Greetings, and welcome to Conversations with Exploring Hard Decisions While Living with ALS, presented by ALS United Greater New York with our staff hosts Nancy Brenner and Debbie Schlossberg. This series of recorded interviews with a variety of special guests will explore and present topics which are sometimes sensitive, personal, or may not be addressed in regular support groups, but which we know often provoke thought and deep questioning.
Hello, and welcome to Conversations with ALS United Greater New York's series of discussions around topics of importance to the ALS community. Topics of a somewhat personal nature, sometimes of an even existential nature. It is our hope that these topics will help us all inform some of life's most significant and meaningful decisions. Joining me today on Conversations with is my co-host and colleague, Nancy Brenner, our supporter and advisor from the fundraising team, Charlotte Cito, and our invited guest, Amy Cunningham. And Nancy will now introduce Amy to everybody.
Amy, thank you so much for being with us. We are truly honored to have you and we're eager to learn all of your very valuable information. So Amy's 30-year career in magazine journalism took an abrupt turn in 2009 when her elderly father's death and funeral in South Carolina opened her up to the power and importance of the American funeral. She started mortuary school in her mid-50s, became a New York licensed funeral director in 2012, and launched a funeral planning blog called theinspiredfuneral.com. In 2016, she founded Fitting Tribute Funeral Services, which specializes in green burials, memorial events, and cremations in Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery. Amy was immensely helpful interpreting the changing funeral industry to reporters, clergy, and hospice during the coronavirus pandemic. And Amy, again, thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
So, Amy, to get us started, we know that ALS families have a lot to manage and funerals are already hard to afford and to plan. We're hearing a lot about environmentally sustainable funerals. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, thank you, Nancy and Debbie, for having me here. It's a real honor. Nearly every funeral home in the United States has witnessed changes in recent years. Rates of cremation have been rising, and families are coming to funeral directors after a death of any sort without clergy. We're an increasingly secular society, and people are reinventing the funeral ceremony and wanting agency and control. One of the big shifts that we're seeing is the desire to make funerals of all sorts more sustainable and less toxic to the planet. So the green burial movement is a very beautiful thing where people are returning to a simpler, very dignified form of burial that does not inhibit the body's natural return to the soil.
So what exactly, tell us a little bit more. So what exactly is a natural burial? And is it something that our neighborhood funeral directors and funeral homes are aware of?
Yes, because there are these big national conferences for funeral directors, and this is the buzz.
Mm.
That cremation is still has a lot of flexibility and a lower price point, but a green burial is a way to keep burial affordable by choosing less expensive biodegradable kinds of caskets. Also, avoiding embalming or just skipping that altogether. You can still have a viewing of your loved one without the embalming process, which involves a chemical called formaldehyde. And the caskets that deceased people are being laid in as part of this movement are just simple woven baskets and also pine caskets, traditional to Jewish funeral service. The great teachers of the Green Burial movement are Jewish families and Islamic families, both of which have always believed that stewardship of the earth is a very important tenet and religious value. So these simple services with the deceased person being lovingly laid into the earth are reaching people and really moving them, especially after the end of a prolonged and stressful illness where folks need ritual and the ability to be out of doors is transformational.
Thank you for that, Amy. It sounds so beautiful the way you talk about it. It's certainly something that is, I'm sure, new to a lot of people. And where do the natural burials take place, and how can we connect in our own states to where they are available?
Every community has a cemetery within a reasonable drive where a deceased person can be placed into the earth in a pine casket. That's the kind of casket that's accepted everywhere. Um, it's a soft wood that dissolves into the earth after burial. Um, the willow caskets, and also sometimes we have uh, people, believe it or not, wrapped in beautiful burial shrouds, laid out on a board or a willow tray, and they're wrapped in fabric. The face is completely covered and surrounded with evergreen boughs and gorgeous flowers and placed into the earth. Those kinds of burials are mostly taking place in natural cemeteries that advertise this kind of service. So the website to pursue is called the greenburialcouncil.org. Uh, that's greenburialcouncil.org. And they have a list of each state and the various cemeteries in that state that allow these kinds of rituals. Oftentimes, there's also a procession to the grave. Sometimes even the cemeteries take this back to in the past to having a kind of wagon or caisson where the deceased person is placed out of the car onto this wagon and then carried to the grave, pulled by the family. These ceremonies, guys, are highly participatory and families can really have the experience that's so unusual these days of delivering their loved one to the earth. And after a long time of just focusing on keeping your loved one comfortable after death, these experiences are transformational. And as sad as a family can be after a death, after these green burials, and I'm not being cute when I say this, but families almost they're so uplifted when they leave the cemetery because they feel like, oh, mom would have loved this, you know.
Mhm.
Here we are under the trees. How gorgeous is this? This is the right thing for our family and the right thing for the earth.
Sounds almost purifying to go from
That's a great
a
word for it.
sad and a somewhat demanding experience journey, no matter how long, to this beautiful kind of ritual and sending off. And you can see that it helps with the transition, or it feels that way.
Hmm. And
Now,
it
yeah.
appeals to people who love gardening, who love
Uh-huh.
history, who are naturally inclined to be careful about the environment and
Mhm.
what is thrown away, what is purchased, and it it becomes its own kind of experience where you're as above, so below. You're like you, even a secular family can find such value and sort of almost a kind of ecstasy in this kind of simple, loving return to a natural way of doing things.
And I know that in our audience, in our community, there are many people who care about just the things that you mentioned, about the environment, about history, love gardening, all of those things.
Yep.
So maybe if we could shift for a moment to another option, which is the very popular one, and cremation. I wonder, are there ways to approach cremation that are environmentally friendly?
Cremation in the United States is generally gas fueled, so it takes a fossil fuel to heat that chamber to 1800 degrees for 3 hours. However, in terms of um, your your use of fossil fuel, it's not the worst thing you'll cremating a grandmother is not the worst thing against the environment a family might ever do. You know what it is? Having two homes that you're heating and cooling all year. That's considered wasteful, though many people do it without a thought about it. Cremation, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to green it up, and there are new methods emerging. And some are legal in numerous states. One method you might research in your state is alkaline hydrolysis, which is considered a greener form of cremation. It's a water-based cremation method that takes place in a tank. Also coming on strong, you may have read about natural organic reduction. It too is being legalized state by state, and I think it's going to have a tremendously powerful influence. In the meantime, if you have a death of a loved one, and cremation is the most affordable method available to you, you can take those cremated remains after the cremation takes place. You'll have a box from the crematory of cremated remain, which is actually bone, a pulverized bone product. This may be more than folks want to know, but the phosphorus and calcium and mineral salts in our bones are what creates a cremated remain. And it's good to know that because our bones don't burn. So this is the ash that is scattered in beautiful places. You can mix flowers with it, and you can bury cremated remains in a biodegradable vessel, just as you would use a willow casket for a full body green burial. You can use a simple pine box or a soft wood um, to return and bury those cremated remains in the soil. You can also scatter them, and there's a great product called Let Your Love Grow at letyourlovegrow.com, where it's a nitrogen-rich fertilizer that you mix with cremated remains and cast into the ocean or into the earth. And there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people create beautiful experiences this way and have a lovely way of resolving and contending with the death that they've had to manage.
There's so much to know that I feel the general public has no idea about. So this
Yeah.
is such an important topic. And you're so wise, and the way you speak about it is just beautiful. You
Well,
know, you can feel your passion for this topic and your love for the earth and your caring toward people, and wanting this send off to be beautiful for people.
I see so many people who are so exhausted at the end of a prolonged illness. They want to do the right thing, but their minds have been so consumed with the caretaking that they cannot think creatively or well about what next. So I just want to encourage people to take a breath, to do a bit of research, to see that this isn't scary, this is beautiful. And ritual is so important at the end of any life that if we take a tiny bit of time to delve into all the nice things that are possible and find a funeral director that we can communicate well with, guess what? 72% of the people in mortuary school right now are female. Isn't that interesting?
Hmm.
We think of funeral directors as traditionally male, and they have been, but a lot of women are entering this business and coming in with a lot of new ideas and an emphasis on what kinds of experiences they can provide families, not just products and services. So when you think of the funeral as an experience for your family, that's a really wonderful path to start down.
I think also it's comforting to think of these ideas too. And if people could take some time before the death happens to maybe curate what they would like, it would be really meaningful for both the person who is going through an illness and for the family. It could be very healing. So
Well said. Thank you.
thank you. And is there a place that people can go to learn more about green burial and burials in general, or funeral options in general, I should say?
Um, there is a website called the Funeral Consumers Alliance. It's a nonprofit based in Vermont. They have lots of basic consumer information about what's possible in your state. And also, again, the Green Burial Council is really the greatest authority on products, these caskets, where to get them, and on particular funeral homes and cemeteries that are really specializing in this. And chances are pretty good that there's something in your community, or if not, you can have a casket shipped to your more conservative traditional funeral home and enlighten them in the process of, and use the death as another way to, like, if your loved one was a trailblazer, this is another way to bring that energy into your ritual and enlighten your local funeral home that this is something you want.
Wonderful.
Amy, thank you so, so much. And in our preparatory conversations with you and listening to you again, I hope that you, the viewers, will continue to check out our web page for future editions of Conversations With, because we're going to have opportunities to delve even deeper. We want to talk more about these rituals. We want to talk more about these alternatives and local resources, and in addition to the resources that Amy mentioned at the end of today's episode, we will have Amy's website up on the site so that you can also reach out to her, because she's also a local compassionate funeral director, a resource in and of herself. So again, thank you so much. Thank you to my colleague and co-host Nancy Brenner. Thank you again to Charlotte, who's a little bit behind the scenes, but who has been invaluable in bringing today's episode to us. And we look forward to seeing you all for future topics on Conversations With.